The Oklahoma Sooners are properly rated by the AP poll for the 26th consecutive year.
You are Locked On Sooners, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma Sooners. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Sooner Nation? Welcome to Locked On Sooners, and thank you for making Locked On Sooners your first listen every single day. Shout out to all the everydayers out there tuning in, subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code Locked On College for $20 off your first purchase over at Game Time. He's Jay Smith of Unfair Sports. You can check out his work over at Unfair Sports on YouTube. I'm John Williams. You can read my work covering the Sooners over at SoonersWire.com. And on today's show, we're going to talk some recruiting stuff. Oklahoma missed out on a wide receiver, got a big decision happening on Tuesday. We'll discuss all of that in the third segment. Coach Beatonbow heaped a lot of praise on his freshman offensive lineman. We'll discuss that in segment 2, but we got to start here. The AP poll dropped its preseason top 25, and the Oklahoma Sooners come in at number 18 after being left out of the coaches poll a week ago.
Yeah, I think this is one of the longest streaks in college football. Sooners have been, this was number 25, 26, something like that. So they've been on there since 2000 preseason poll. So every year, Oklahoma is considered a team that should be in the top 25, and we've just kept the consistency going. So now all we got to do is win, John. If we win and stay in the top 25 the entire season, I will be extremely happy. That's actually the only thing I care about. But I do believe when we look at the poll here, I think that 18 is actually a very good spot for the Sooners. It's actually one spot off from where they were in 2000 when they won the national championship. They were 19. And to be honest, ever since Brent Venables has been here, we've roughly been between 18 and 22 all 3 years. So the fourth season started with him being at 18. It's actually I think that's actually the best spot he's started since he's been in Oklahoma.
It's a good spot to be. And if you think Oklahoma is going to be a good team, then you have to rate them inside the top 25. It doesn't matter what the schedule looks like. It doesn't matter what happened in 2024. This team this year, if you think they're going to be good, they're a top 25 team. And you have people across the country talking about how Oklahoma is a top 10 team in a vacuum. By itself, they're a top 10 team. Will they finish in the top 10? That's why we play the football games. Will they finish inside the top 25? Yes, they will. They will finish inside the top 25. How high? That just depends on how many games that they win. I think they're going to finish quite high inside the top 25. I'll drop my official predictions for the season a little bit later this month. Got to leave a little something for later in the month. Can't give it all away just yet. But this is a team that is going to be among the most competitive teams in college football this year. Whatever games they do lose, they're not going to get beat by double digits. They won't get beat by 2 scores. They will be very close games in which Oklahoma will have a chance to win those games. And a lot of times it's going to come down to a bounce here, a bounce there, a penalty here, a penalty there, a drop pass here, a drop pass there. It's going to come down to the little things in these games that will be the difference between winning and losing. And that's what it's going to come down to. But Oklahoma, for me, they're legitimately a top 25 team. Would I have cared if they got left out? No, because I still think that they're going to be a top 25 team. But it's good to see that, hey, listen, the media believes in Oklahoma.
Yeah. And I was totally incorrect when BV started. We were ranked number 9. And last season we were ranked number 16. I went back to go dig into the history to make sure, and I was way off. So 18 is about the middle area of where he was ranked, I guess, closer to the end. In 23, we were ranked at, number 20 in the country, which was one of our better seasons. So that's actually pretty good to be close in that area. We finished the season with 10 wins. So that's a plus. And if we can duplicate that, that would actually look great, trying to make it into a potential playoff spot. So 10 wins, I'm not very upset about that. But no, you're right. It's really about going out there and closing out. I mean, the coaches poll, not having Oklahoma in there for the first time in 20-something years was a little bit of a bummer. Kind of saddened me. But at the same time, I got it. I see why some coaches probably wouldn't believe in us as much. But for me, the AP poll, which is what everything actually hinges on, kind of critical that we were ranked in the top 20 let alone the top 25. And so now we just got to get on the field and act out. So, John, the question is, you know how many people that we play in the top 25?
Is it 7 again? 7, just like in the coaches
7.
poll, right? Yeah. So Oklahoma will play number 1 Texas. They'll play number 8 Alabama, number 9 LSU. They'll play number 13 South Carolina, number 14 Michigan. They'll also play number 21 Ole Miss and number 24 Tennessee.
Ain't that crazy?
What's interesting about this, though, is you'll play number 14 Michigan in week 2, going to be a top 25 matchup, and then you won't have another ranked opponent until the Red River Showdown, which that could very well be a game of top 10 opponents. That could very well be one of the biggest matchups of the year, unless Texas falls from grace in their matchups against number 15 Florida, number 3 Ohio State. They've got some big time games that they're going to have to avoid, dropping the loss if they want to get to the Cotton Bowl undefeated like Oklahoma is going to be.
Yeah, and they said this is the first time that a number 1 team has been a dog in their first game of their first game of the season, which is kind of fascinating to see that they're a dog on the road against the number 3 team. So obviously Vegas does not believe what the AP poll is saying, but it is what it is. But yeah, actually, John, if you really think about it, depending on how the first 3 weeks go, there's a possibility that game 4 for Oklahoma is against another ranked team. Auburn just missed on votes. So they're right there at the cusp, and there's a good chance that some of these bottom-feeding teams here, somebody's going to lose, potentially. Heck, if we beat Michigan, Michigan could fall out. That's always a possibility. Now, granted, it depends on how much of a victory it is, but yeah, there's always a chance.
I'm going to say that there's a very good chance that Auburn is ranked by the time that they play Oklahoma, because if they go and they beat Baylor on the road in Waco to open the season, that'll give them a lot of positive publicity. Then they play Ball State and South Alabama at home before traveling to play Oklahoma. So a lot of it's going to depend on how they play against the Bears in Waco, against Dave Aranda, against Sawyer Robertson. If they can go win that matchup on the road, then they'll probably be ranked by the time they come to Norman.
Yeah, that's true. If they pull off that Baylor win, that's one I would expect. If they win that game, they would get bumped up 1 spot because somebody in the top 25 is going to lose. Somebody's going to lose in the 20 through 25 range in their first game. We'd have to just go through and look at these schedules and see who it could be. I mean, I don't think Ole Miss has a toughie to start the season, so I'm not really I don't think that they're the ones that would actually be the one to lose. Tennessee plays Syracuse, so that's always a possibility. If they lose to Syracuse, they're definitely knocked out of the top 25. Ole Miss has 2 they've got Georgia State, and then they're on the road at Kentucky. So yeah, there's very low chance that changes for them. Yeah, if Tennessee doesn't win that game against Syracuse in Atlanta, I don't care if it's neutral site or not, there's a good chance that they get knocked off. And so Oklahoma's got to win that game against Illinois State, though. Did you see Illinois State is ranked number 6 in FCS this season to start the year?
It's going to be a quality win against a top 10 opponent.
Hey, it's a top 10 opponent, John. Like, what are we doing here? Like, what are we thinking about this? Why did we do this to ourselves? Why did we believe that it was okay to play against the number 6 team in the country in FCS when we are at home to start the season? You can't start the season against a top 10 team in FCS like that and think that people aren't going to recognize that you're playing a tough team because they're number 10 in the country in FCS. Yeah. So we got to be careful doing that.
Yeah.
What were we thinking, John?
Really putting Oklahoma at risk before they have to welcome Michigan. I mean, a top 10 opponent, and then you have to face a top 15 opponent in the FCS. Yes. That's a grind, man.
Who should we fire for making that decision, man? That was not a good decision.
I think he's already resigning.
Touche.
Or retiring. Missouri fans really upset that they're not ranked. I don't think they're going to have to worry about that for much of this season. They might get ranked at some point, but they won't last long in the rankings.
Yeah, actually, what's funny is Missouri's actually above Auburn in receiving votes. Missouri got 33 and Auburn got 10.
Yeah. I mean, they might start the season 3-0 against Central Arkansas, maybe Kansas. I'm not going to sleep on the Jayhawks.
The Kansas one's interesting.
Then they got Louisiana before they play South Carolina in Columbia. If they can win that game against South Carolina, they'll be a ranked team. And if they can beat South Carolina, they might end up staying a ranked team by the time they play Oklahoma. Just kind of depends. But anyway, for Oklahoma, it doesn't matter what the ranking is for the team across from them. They just got to go win games. If they go win games, everything else will take care of itself. But being in the top 25 to start the season gives them a great opportunity to position themselves for the playoff if we get to November and we got 1, maybe 2 losses on the slate. Oklahoma Sooners offensive line coach Bill Bedenbaugh was quite complimentary of his true freshman offensive lineman. We'll discuss that coming up next here on Locked On Sooners. We've all been there, logging on early and waiting for concert tickets to go on sale, only to lose your spot for a show you've been dying to see. Live music should be about making memories, not dealing with the stress of ticket shopping. That's where Game Time comes in. Game Time makes getting concert tickets faster and easier than ever. Prices actually drop as it gets closer to showtime, and you can save up to 60% with their killer last-minute deals. Tired of endless scrolling, trying to find the best deal? Game Time Zone Picks Zone Deals, picks the best seat in your section for you. Ever wonder what your view will actually look like before you buy? The app shows you a panoramic seat view, so there are no surprises. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets for concerts and shows with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Thank you once again for making Locked On Sooners your first listen every single day. Shout out to all the everydayers out there tuning in. Subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Make sure you go check out our interview with Luke Wilson, the Oklahoma Sooners' first 2027 recruiting class commitment, the offensive tackle out of South Lake Carroll. Had some great things to say about Oklahoma and why he decided to go ahead and pull the trigger on his commitment ahead of his junior season. Let's talk about a couple other offensive linemen. Bill Bedenbaugh was quite complimentary when he met with the media on Monday when he talked about Michael Fazousi and Ryan Foje.
Yeah, George Stoya of Sooner Scoop asked him about the freshmen and you know, how did he feel about them? And he basically flat out said he's the best he's had on his roster at that age. And for him, when it comes to wanting to play, it has nothing to do with, you know, big plays or anything like that. It's all about consistency. And he talked about those guys are pretty consistent. That's pretty huge to hear.
Yeah.
Especially because we know that the way that Bill Bedenbaugh coaches, he wants guys that, you know, play in and play out are going to do exactly what they need to do in order to win. And, you know, make sure not only they're successful, make sure the entire line is successful. And so to hear that you've got a couple of guys that he feels like he's getting to the point where he can truly trust, it's huge for this team going forward, because now that means that at their, as we know at their size, they're pretty big dudes. So we expect them to be able to actually get some run, but that gets you even more excited because at some point they may fight and find their way on the field. They were both top 10 players in their position nationally. So I like hearing that.
Even if it's not this year, if it's next year that they're starting for you along the offensive line, that's okay. You've got a really strong trajectory with both of these guys. And if they're not starting this year, I think that's a good sign, because that means that Jacob Sexton is doing what he needs to do to play a quality left tackle, and that Eddie Pierre-Louis and Fabechi Wiwu are doing a good job playing the interior guard positions. Like, it's not a bad thing if neither of these true freshmen are starting. I think it's a good thing. It means the rest of your offensive line is stepping up, because the sky is the limit for these kids. Michael Fazousi and Ryan Foje both have big-time NFL prospects because they move really, really well. They're strong. They're smart. They're about their business. Like, they work. They put in the work. They wouldn't be where they're at today if they haven't been putting in the work for the last 8 months, because there's a lot of offensive linemen that come through with high ceilings and big-time potential, but they don't advance this quickly to be in the mix for rotational snaps on Bill Bedenbaugh's offensive line unless they've done the work to make themselves more consistent. So it's encouraging at least to know that these two guys are going to be in the mix for rotational snaps at least, and are going to continue to push the veterans on the roster. And that's what you want. You want your young guys coming up, pushing everybody else and competing for a starting opportunity. And if they don't get it, that's no slight against them. It just means that everybody else raised their game, and they're going to have the advantage because guys like Jacob Sexton have been in the program for 4 years. Fabechi Wiwu is in his second year in the program. They know what to expect, and they know how to operate at the collegiate level, as Fazousi and Foje are kind of still getting their feet wet a little bit. But it's exciting at least to know that Bill Bedenbaugh is confident that they're going to get significant playing time this year.
Yeah, especially with, the questions we have around the offensive line. You want to hear about players that the coach trusts, and that's another player that they trust. They trust that that both of them are capable of picking things up and are ready to play. So was it Fazousi got some run with the ones during the scrimmage? That was one note that came out, as well as you saw a little Foje rotating in as well for Fabechi Wiwu. So they're getting some good burn, let's put it that way, when it comes to practicing with the ones and twos. So you're starting to see them. And so at some point later in the season, you'll probably hear about them actually playing more. Now we're starting to get healthier. You're starting to see some of the offensive linemen that were out in the spring with shoulder procedures or whatnot. They're starting to actually get some play too. So there should be a strong rotation on the offensive line going into game 1 and game 2. To me, after Michigan kind of tells me what the offensive line is going to look like, because that's when you can kind of see what the health is truly going to be. But I like the fact that we've got two offensive linemen that are freshmen that we feel we truly can trust and can throw out there and be okay with it.
Yeah, absolutely. You want a number of guys that the offensive line coach trusts. And he also mentioned guys like Heath Ozida and Logan Howland, and talked about how missing the spring is kind of rough. It's hard. And he equated it to Creed Humphrey when he missed the spring going into his sophomore season, and how that kind of set him back a little bit. And we all know how great Creed is. And so we talked about maybe working Heath Ozida and Logan Howland in a little bit slowly, but was very complimentary of them from Monday's practice, saying that they had their best day so far in fall camp and put together a really good practice. So that's encouraging for those guys because, with Derek Simmons out, with Jake Taylor out, with Jacob Sexton out, Logan Howland was playing a lot of tackle in the scrimmage on Saturday. And after missing a lot of the spring due to the shoulder surgery, he's kind of catching up now. And if he can trend in a positive direction towards the start of the season, that's a really good sign for where he's at in his development, because again, it's a developmental game. The guy that we saw against Ole Miss isn't the same guy that we're seeing today, or that Bill Bedenbaugh is even seeing today. So it's encouraging that a lot of these guys along the offensive line are showing positive progression in their developmental timeline with Oklahoma. Now it just all has to come together. And I hope for Oklahoma's sake that by Illinois State, we know who the starting five is, and then we know who the rotational guys are, because I want to see that five really get at least a half together of game action before they go play Michigan. You know what I mean? Because you want to have that cohesion and that chemistry and that communication settled. And thankfully, they got a veteran center in Troy Everett that's going to help them. But you want to kind of have the rest of it figured out before you have to go play a really daunting Michigan front.
Yeah, if we weren't talking about Bill Bedenbaugh, I'd totally be in agreement with you there, but he likes to tinker.
He is a tinkerer. I get it. I just don't want it like being the Auburn game with Texas a couple weeks later that we're still trying to figure out what the offensive line is. You know what I mean?
In which, and I agree with you there. The good thing is that he has some experience with these offensive linemen. So he kind of has an idea of who can do what. That's why this year, in comparison to last year, in actual game scenarios, he's seen Heath Ozida. He saw a little bit of EPL, and I think the EPL figured things out. Remember, he wasn't in spring last year, so he didn't come into the summer, so that's why he was a little bit behind getting things down. But he got to see a lot of the players that are there. So I think the comfort zone for BB is there for majority of the players. But the freshman making him just as comfortable, to me, that's a very big, that's a testament to how good they are more than anything, is if they can get in there and get him to actually be like, oh yeah, I can throw him out there on the field.
Yeah. And we knew
He don't do that.
No, he doesn't. He doesn't just throw freshmen on the field unless he has to. I mean, Caden Green was a guy that got worked into a spot sometime just before the Red River Showdown, or he might have gotten his first start in the Red River Showdown, if I can't remember exactly, but we know how critical of a role he played in that game and then over the second half of the season. But if you have veterans that have time in the program and some game experience that can lead the way along the offensive line, I think it just creates a little bit more trust. But again, Foje and Fazousi, man, they're so talented that it wouldn't surprise me in the least if they ended up becoming starters at some point this season, and not due to injury, just because they're going to be hard to keep off the field. And that's also an okay thing too. This is what competition's supposed to be, right? The competitive depth is pushing everybody. So yeah, there it is. I got you. I said it just for you, Jay. I knew you needed a little bit of hydration, so I was going to hook you up on that front. The Oklahoma Sooners, man, they missed out on another blue chip wide receiver prospect. We'll discuss that coming up next here on Locked On Sooners. Once again, thanks for making Locked On Sooners your first listen every single day. Shout out to all the everydayers out there tuning in and subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Jay, the Oklahoma Sooners were in the running for Davian Groce, the 4-star wide receiver prospect out of Lone Star, Texas. He chose the Florida Gators over Oklahoma, Baylor, and Houston. Jay, what do you make of how this all went down on Monday? Nobody knew that he was going to commit on Monday. And then all of a sudden he announced, hey, I'm going to commit on Monday.
Yeah, we've been waiting to hear from him since beginning of July, that it's been rumored that Oklahoma was leading or doing something well when it came to him. And so when I saw that he was going to commit today, I was like, yep, this probably is not a good thing for Oklahoma. Not even going to pretend like it is. And everyone kept pointing out, well, Oklahoma's been in the lead for a bit and all of that. I'm just like, yeah, if he wanted to come to Oklahoma, I feel like he would have committed to Oklahoma a while ago. Mm-hmm. Or am I crazy for thinking that? Because that is like literally the thing that I thought, that if he really was going to go to Oklahoma, he would have been committed the 13 times we heard that he was going to commit.
Yeah.
But I get it. Florida was definitely on his list. They gave him what I told a couple people. I was like, look, they probably pitched him being the next Percy Harvin. Granted, he was probably just born when Percy Harvin was playing in 07 or whatnot. So he has absolutely no recollection of his existence. But when you watch the tape, Percy Harvin was ridiculous. And he was in the backfield at running back. He was in slot. He played on the outside. They just moved him everywhere, and he became just a bit massive Swiss Army knife that unfortunately was too early for his time at the collegiate level, so he didn't really translate to the NFL like Deebo Samuels is now. I think Groce would be able to do something like that for them. It sucks that Oklahoma couldn't pull him, but whenever Oklahoma bounces back from last year, you'll start seeing a lot more players willing to come here.
It's a bummer because he was one of my favorite players in this class. I think he's a really, really good player. I think he's got the ability to be incredibly dynamic at the collegiate level, and he's got pro prospects because of how good he is after the catch, how good he is in space, and what he's able to do to make defenders miss in the open field. He's just a really, really good player. See, Texas fans, you don't have to trash a guy just because he didn't commit to your school. So remember this.
Questionable. You're supposed to. Them's the rules.
No, them's the rules. It's a bummer. If he got the offer that he liked better from Florida, it's all in the game. That's just the way it goes. I would have liked for Oklahoma to be more willing to push all in for this kid. They decided that wasn't going to be the case for them. Or maybe they did push all in and he still just liked whatever he was getting from Florida instead of what the Oklahoma offer was. Fair enough.
Yeah, rumor has it that Florida gave just an offer that warmed him and the family's heart a little bit more than Oklahoma. I've heard Oklahoma was willing to play in the sandbox with this player because this is one player they really liked, which I get it. This is why you be willing to. They were all over him. But at the same time, there's also things to consider like, when am I going to get to play? Yeah, about the way this roster is set up, I don't think that you're one that's going to outdo our dudes. Could be that. You never know. May not be. It could be a lot of different things, but at the same time, it kind of sucks because I really like you. I like Groce a lot, and he was one that I was hoping we could have figured out, but, it'll be all right.
I mean, if you're being for real, though, and you look at the wide receiver depth chart for Oklahoma, it is kind of crowded with guys from that 2025 and 2024 recruiting class.
It is. It's getting there.
It's pretty full. Zion Kearney, Ivan Carrion, Zion Reagans, KJ Daniels, Elijah Thomas, Manny Choice. That's just the high school recruits that you've brought in over those last couple of years. That doesn't include Jermichael Carter, who's going to have a year of eligibility after this year. It's not going to, I mean, Isaiah Satania, he could be here again next year. Giovanni Gibson, I believe he might have some eligibility even after this year. I can't remember right. But,
yes.
And then who knows what's going to go on with Jaden Gibson. I mean, Jaden Gibson could potentially medically redshirt. I don't know if he's going to play significant time this year or not. We'll see how his recovery and his trend.
Yeah. You would say your three that's gone is
Deion Burks,
Keontae Lewis, Deion Burks, Keontae Lewis, and Major Melson are the only three that's gone at the end of this season.
And so your depth chart is pretty crowded. Again, that's not to say that they wouldn't have taken him. And I'm not trying to sit here and tell you that you should feel okay about the loss. What I'm going to tell you is you've got a lot of really talented guys still on the roster for 2026, 2027 that I think it's going to be okay. And you have a guy like Daniel Odom coming in, and who knows what else they're going to be able to add in the transfer portal next offseason or even in the 2026 recruiting class.
Yeah, you don't know. And it's okay. It'll be all right. All we know is that at some point they'll figure it out. That's really where I'm at.
Well, and again, if you like the guys from 2024 and 2025, that's 6 dudes that can still play a significant role on this team that have a lot of eligibility left. So you're not necessarily in dire straits at wide receiver. There's time to continue to build and recruit and get that depth chart set up for the future for Bo Bentley, for Michael Hawkins Jr., maybe a Peyton Houston down the road. We'll see.
Maybe.
Final recruiting note, Jake Kreul is going to commit on Tuesday on the Pat McAfee show. Why did I say it that way?
I don't know why you say it that way.
Pat McAfee show. Hey,
McAfee. Hey.
Yeah.
No.
Maybe I'm thinking of the McDonald's coffee. McAfee. My apologies, Pat. Don't hold it against us. We are definitely hunter friendly for the brand.
I'm loving it.
Yeah. So Jake Kreul will commit on Tuesday afternoon. We will discuss that on Locked On Sooners, whichever way it goes. Hopefully it goes Oklahoma's way. They could certainly use some good recruiting news out there on the recruiting trail. They're still very much in the thick of it. I know everybody seems to be leaning towards Texas, but I wouldn't count the Sooners out just yet.
No, shenanigans may happen. That always is something to keep your minds on. But at the same time, I don't feel like shenanigans are probably going to happen in this situation. We'll see. But I do think that there's a chance that whomever is leading it will close it out. I don't think a shenanigan is going to happen this time around. Doesn't feel like it. Feel like he decided that, you know what? I'm done. Let's go into the season with it. If I change my mind later, I can change my mind later.
Yeah. Let's get it finished. Let's finish it off. Miguel Chavis, go close the deal, my man. And that's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Sooners. Thanks so much for tuning in, being a part of the show. Subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. We're free and available on every podcast. Man, podcast. My accents today are going very weird. My apologies, everybody. I think it is the Whataburger that I ate on the way home from Poto today when I did a little Facebook Marketplace deal this evening before we recorded. So anyway, available wherever you get your podcasts, YouTube, Amazon, Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. Hit that subscribe button. And then over on YouTube, hit that notification bell to let you know when new episodes drop. Follow Jay at Unfair Sports. Go check out his channel, Unfair Sports, over on YouTube. You can follow me at John 9 Williams and read my work covering the Sooners over at SoonersWire.com. But until next time, he's Jay Smith. I'm John Williams. We'll talk to you then. Boomer.
Sooner.